Welcome to the Lakeshow podcast presented by Jack in the Box. It's a weekly deep dive into the biggest stories and topics surrounding the Los Angeles Lakers. I'm Allie Clifton, joined by my Spectrum SportsNet co-host, Chris McGee, and from The Athletic, Jovan Buha. What a timely visit from you,
Jovan, take over. I'm working out here on something.
It's what a time to be covering the Lakers.
Let's be respectful. Before everything, we get into everything. How are you? What's going on in your life? That's what I meant by being respectful in terms of that was rude of me to not even say hello. How are you?
I'm well. I'm been catching up on sleep this week. Sleep I didn't get the past 7 months. So having some 9-10 hour sleep nights. So it's been good.
Ooh, what's that like?
It's rejuvenating.
Yeah,
rejuvenating.
Yeah,
that's nice.
Shout out to your beautiful second other half.
Yes.
It's Nurses Week.
Yes.
Yeah.
Shout out to all the nurses out there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
for sure.
You get married?
September.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right before the season.
Right before, and so we're gotta figure out the honeymoon timing and make sure it doesn't.
I suggest you go right after. I feel like
we are, but I gotta make sure training camp.
Yeah.
Can't conflict with
How does she feel about that?
She's used to it by now. It's
that's true.
Our schedule is on the NBA schedule. So
getting married what, the 8th, 7th?
7th. Yeah, 6th to 8th in Palm Springs. Yeah. So
you have time then.
If you're in Palm Springs, pull
up.
Yeah,
you're golden.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we got a couple weeks.
So you're saying we can come crash it?
Yeah.
You won't kick us out?
Yeah.
Just come rage.
Just come rage.
She's now been through how many seasons? 2 with you? Couple? She's been through
4.
Okay, so she knows the gauntlet.
Yeah.
She knows.
And those have been a couple COVID
players
seasons,
and coaches
so
are
it's
mad
all over.
At Jovan and maybe that
She's gotten it on her Instagram. Where people find her
What?
and then call me out on her Instagram. Yeah.
Did she go back at him?
Can I?
No.
Can I say, people don't do that.
It's
Don't bother her.
Yeah, seriously.
Fans, be
Facts.
better than that.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. Or go be a fan of the Clippers. You have 2 choices.
You could be like me and not put any of your personal life, and then people really wonder what's going on. They always ask, why don't you put anything?
I've been wondering for years.
Have you seen these people?
I've been wondering for years about your personal life.
That's a lie. That's a lie because you know too much. That's fun. That's exciting, though. Good. I just saw her post, actually. I was going to tell you all that Duncan that she had.
Yeah.
Oh, so jealous. But kudos to her.
Yeah.
Nurses Week. How are you, my friend?
What?
That would have been really... I haven't seen you in a minute.
I know.
That's a great T-shirt, by the way.
Thank you. My daughter works here.
One of the best brunch spots.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal breakfast spot in Hermosa Beach, Martha's.
Yeah. It's a great T-shirt.
Yeah, it's one of my faves.
All right. Shall we dive in?
Go there and say hi to Kevin Barry, who runs it. Great guy.
Oh. Shout out. I actually just got a cool trucker hat from there.
They got great hats.
Yeah. Great hat.
Yeah. Is it an HB one or is it a Martha's one?
Martha's.
Yeah, it's cool.
Bright pink. Pink and white.
Nice. Good for the summer.
Very good for the summer.
And the lake.
In the lake. Yes.
Not to get into personal stuff, in case there's a lake
We will not give that
in your
location.
I'm not going to tell you where she's going to.
Yeah,
we'll not give that location. Weirdos will follow her and they'll be like, "Let me get a picture of your feet." I won't have it.
And I'll send them all to you, my agent. Nacho really loved that one, by the way.
Nacho.
Brett too. He's acting. Oh, he's probably watching the NBA playoffs. They are going on right now. Are you watching the game? Has it started? No, it has not started.
Cavs Boston. Smashing going on over there, huh?
Boston's a 13.5-point favorite.
Yes.
That's wild.
A buddy
For a
asked me
second
today.
round playoff game.
A buddy asked me today. You know who he is? Valley Jerry, we call him.
Oh,
he said, "Can the Cavs win the game? Because if I put $100 on them and they win, it's $700." I go, "No, they're not going to win the game. But I don't know what your financial standings. I don't know if you're way up, but if you're way up and you want to throw a little, maybe take a Hail Mary. Anything can happen in basketball.
Yeah.
But no, they're not winning. But they can. But I'm sorry, Allie. The Cavs aren't winning in Boston. I think they can win a game at home.
Can you come support?
I think the Cavs can win a game at home.
Oh,
I think they could get one.
Yeah, I just don't think they're going to win.
Yeah.
I think they'll win one at home. Yeah.
5-game series.
Yeah.
Weird seeing the Nuggets look, kind of in meltdown mode.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Weird.
Coach Malone's all of a sudden not funny, cocky afterwards. What's going on over there?
I think reality set in.
Oh.
Of what's.
I saw
what
Michael
has
Porter
arrived.
Jr. miss.
Oh.
That was weird.
Man. I like that line. We're going to get into it in a couple different areas that Braun had on the podcast with JJ, Mind the Game pod, of how
JJ,
he says, I don't know if he sees gold, if he sees Lakers, but he's a effing laser. He just does not miss.
There's a few of those guys. Like I look at Nas Reed too.
Versus the Lakers.
He's just killed.
But by the way, Michael Porter Jr. just doesn't do it in the playoffs with us. It's regular season games, and it has been his entire career.
Yeah, literally.
It was 10 for 10, 5 for 5 on threes. Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, the Clippers lost. Did you go to any of those after?
I did not. No.
So are you just? So I feel like I ask you this all the time, but do you just cover the Lakers?
Yeah.
So you don't have to cover any other playoff series now that they're done?
No.
Okay.
You're an Agora Charger, correct?
Yeah.
He's from here. He's not covering the Clippers.
You asked that question, not me.
Yeah, I just thought maybe he went to the game, but yeah, he's not covering them. Yeah, no.
No. I'm Lakers.
Well, I just know that some writers, once a series is over, they will go and cover others as the playoffs.
I mean,
go on.
I might have gone to Phoenix and covered the Suns if they advanced, but
okay.
I'm curious what they're going to do over there at the Clipperland, because this was a complete failure. They either were going to win the championship or it's a fail. Like they were in that kind of mode. You got all the superstars, 4 Hall of Famers, Harden. What he tried to do, the 76ers, by the way, they ended up bouncing back. Maxi's a star now, but held them basically hostage, right? To come to L.A., you have a dream team. You have to win the title or get to the NBA Finals. So I wonder what's going to happen there. Curious.
Well, we shall see.
It could potentially affect the Lakers.
Interesting.
But let's go there. The NBA
if I'm them,
coaching
though,
search.
I keep Paul George. I do whatever I can to keep. I think Paul George is the guy you got to keep.
What about the coaching position?
How do you feel about that?
I feel like that ship. Listen.
It's still at the dock.
Remember when Ty? No.
It's still at the dock.
It's still at the dock?
Still at the dock.
Do you remember when Ty had an interview with the Lakers?
Yes.
Before Frank.
Yes. 1,000%.
And it did not work out. The years, the finances of it all.
Mm-hmm.
He got on that little boat.
Yeah.
And I believe he sailed away, Allie.
Yeah.
You think the boat is still in view?
But somehow
I think it's in Fiji.
And I'm not taking anything away from Frank because they won a championship.
Yeah.
Having said that, I think during maybe that championship run of Frank and the Lakers and maybe everything that's happened since, somehow, some way, that boat has been spinning its way back to the dock. It needed more gas. It needed to fuel up again.
Yeah.
And so we're tied up.
Mr. Balmer is going to make sure that boat sails on.
You think?
Yeah.
Okay, well, until I hear that it's official.
Ty's a great coach. I mean, they're going to a new arena. If I'm Mr. Balmer, I make sure I keep him. That's just me personally. I mean, I love Ty Lue.
Yeah, I agree.
Ty is phenomenal.
Which is why I'm still going to think that it's at the dock.
I know, but
do you think that boat is at the dock? Is it closer to the dock than it's been in a minute?
Yeah. I mean, I think, look, once...
Are you sure it's not like all the way out there with the sun setting? And
it's funny that this is all happening because my boats were supposed to be put into the water at my dock today.
She has boats,
and the
Brett.
dock man didn't show up. So this is
How many
funny that we're
boats
having
do you
this
have?
conversation.
Now we're learning
How many boats do you have? How many boats do you have?
One boat, one
How
jet
rich
ski.
are you? You said
Continue.
boats.
Just got a new podcast deal. And,
Yeah, anyways.
so congrats, by the way.
Thank you.
I mean, look, like, I think once a Laker, always a Laker. And Ty Lue won 2 championships with the Lakers in 2000 and 2001. So he will always be tied to the franchise. And we know that the Lakers are a franchise where if you win a championship, we see Sasha Vujacic comes to games.
Still there.
And still, like,
Still
different guys.
raging.
Like, once you are a Laker and you win a championship,
wine.
I think you're always tied to the franchise to some degree. And then, too, I mean, him and LeBron have always had that kinship, and LeBron always speaks highly of him. He always goes out of his way to praise him whenever they play the Clippers. So I think LeBron has made it known that he is fond of Ty Lue, and I believe that if Ty were available, he'd be the Lakers' top choice. It's just to Chris's point, like I don't see Steve Ballmer letting that
happen.
I think it's going to be a giant extension.
When he calls me Chris, he is all
that's
business
serious.
today.
Okay, all right, take note.
He is in wedding business mode right now.
Where are we? Where are we with the latest of the Lakers head coaching search? I'm just going to start.
This is where I can sit back and Jovan gets to go?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Because I have no clue.
So
You've been following
there's a list of candidates. The list is potentially starting to dwindle. So you had Charles Lee, who just
Hornets?
joined the Charlotte Hornets.
Okay.
And you have Mike Budenholzer, who potentially could be joining the Phoenix Suns now that
That one doesn't surprise me. Does that surprise you, Jovan?
Has been.
I feel like that's a fit for him.
I think it makes sense.
Makes sense.
Like you need a veteran coach, I think, in that situation, and he is the most decorated coach available. He is a championship level head coach.
Cross two off your list. That's what you're telling me.
So that would be a couple names off the list. Obviously, Ty Lue potentially available, although if he signs an extension, all of a sudden now he's off the board. Jason Kidd signed an extension. He's off the board. So the list has been
Who's
dwindling
next,
a
Allie?
bit.
I have two.
Allie might be now. So,
I have two names on here.
So JJ Redick
Okay.
is a name that I have heard from multiple people.
Okay.
And he's obviously made it known that he wants to be a head coach at some point in the NBA, or at least would be open to that. Kenny Atkinson, one of the top assistants
I hear
in
Kenny's
Golden
name a lot,
State.
yeah.
And he obviously coached Brooklyn for 4 years and has been widely regarded as one of the best assistants in the league. Also coached with the Clippers. So has dealt with stars, Katie and Kyrie in Brooklyn, Kawhi and PG with the Clippers, and now the Golden State guys. And then some lesser known guys, David Adelman in Denver, Chris Quinn in Miami, Micah Nori in Minnesota. Those are all like top assistant coaches. So it's really interesting. Kind of the pool is shifting as we speak. Again, Mike Budenholzer could be hired by the Suns by the time we get off this podcast. I doubt it, but you just never know with how quickly things are moving. But it's either kind of like retreads or high level assistants who don't have that head coaching experience, or a guy like JJ who's a wild card because he hasn't coached at the NBA level, but was a pro for 15 years, clearly has high level intellect based on his podcasting and media work, and also has a fan in LeBron James who he has a podcast with. So a lot of different moving parts there, but it's going to be interesting to see which way the Lakers go, because I don't think there's a sure bet in any direction.
So I think it's an interesting decision for the Lakers because, number one, and listen, we're not inside the building, but is LeBron James playing basketball, Allie?
If I had to bet my house and yes.
Okay.
What about your boat?
What about the boat? Would you put
All of it?
Okay.
Actually, no, because that's all I would have left.
Okay. And then you would sail away.
And I would sail away, far away.
So, if LeBron's playing basketball for the Lakers and they know this, then that changes the search for me. Like, I don't see a assistant coach who hasn't been ahead yet in this league, say from Minnesota or Denver, whomever's the hot names out there. I don't see them getting the job and coaching this team with LeBron and AD. I just don't. I feel like it would be someone closer to them, like a JJ or something like that. That's just what that's what I think. Now, if LeBron's not playing basketball and you're not in a rebuild mode, but you're then building around AD and who's going to be that second star, then I think it's a different way you can take it. Am I off on that, or is that?
I think
that fair?
That makes sense. I think one important thing that the Lakers are going to need with this new coach is someone who can really command the locker room and hold guys accountable. Yeah. And I think for all the pros of Frank Vogel and Darvin Ham, those were ultimately two areas that they both struggled in. And by the end of their final seasons with the Lakers, that second half of the year, there were guys tuning out and guys that they lost in the locker room.
Yeah.
So I think obviously that kind of tends to happen before a coach gets let go in general. But I think with both guys, they are nicer guys, maybe more mild-mannered guys. And I think you need someone who's going to come in and hold guys accountable and run the locker room. And guys are going to know, like, there's certain things we can and can't do. And this guy's going to enforce this. And I don't think you need to swing the pendulum too far in that direction of, no, not because I think times have changed. With practicing and different things, like players have the money, like players have more power now than they did 10, 20, 30 years ago. But I still think you need someone who's going to hold those guys accountable. And that to me is kind of an X factor here. And that's where I look at some of the assistants. You don't really know that. Like some of those guys could do it, but it is a bit of a wild card. Whereas someone like a Budenholzer, fair or not, I think that would be a box he could check. I think there's other concerns with him of just he was Darvin's mentor, and is there too much overlap with some of the pros and cons? Yeah. But someone like JJ, to me, I think that's, if you're trying to make the case for JJ, I look at his personality and him being so competitive and having some, as he likes to say on his podcast, some bleep to him. Like I think he's someone who could command the room. Now, we don't know how he'd be as a coach, obviously, but I think he would get buy-in from LeBron and AD, and I think he could hold guys accountable.
You're hitting that on the head. That is what matters. If you're going to be honest about this from a coaching perspective, and I'm going to put my hat in the coaching ring right now and kind of advocate for coaches. You have to have the players have to be on board, and that comes from them being professionals and buying in, and that's their job as well. So it is a partnership that needs to happen. So when a guy loses a locker room, part of that falls on the players, in my opinion as well. Yeah. So whether that happened to Frank or that happened to Darvin, like the new guy coming in, it's got to come from both sides. So that's why I think obviously a relationship with LeBron and AD probably matters. If that's who you're building your team around.
Let me ask you this question from the standpoint of, I've heard a little bit where the Lakers just hired a first-time head coach last year, so they're going to want to go the opposite direction this time around. How much weight does that carry? And then when you talk about how you just don't see possibly an assistant coach coming in during this time in this position, does it matter that you're seeing, for example, Nori is on the sideline basically running the team right now, right, for Finch, and then obviously Edelman, and then the success that the Nuggets have had? Does that play a part at all in terms of just that recent success and adding a guy like that, despite them being an assistant?
I think it certainly plays a part because, again, you could make the case like an assistant, if we're putting JJ in this pool, like an assistant has more coaching experience, even if it's not technically like head coaching experience. But then obviously a head coach has more experience than an assistant coach. But I think the point that we're getting at is just, if you are, as we reported at The Athletic, LeBron, we were told is going to play up to 2 more years, and that would likely be the cap on his, any type of contract he's signing and most likely his career. And if you're looking at it through that prism of we have 1 or 2 more years with LeBron and AD, I think taking a gamble on someone that might not pan out or someone that might need time to grow in the role is too much of a risk. Now, at the same time, you could make that case for JJ not having the experience.
I mean, he does coach his kids.
He does. No, and I think
9 and 10 year old.
It's hard.
Is he ready to stop doing that?
I mean, he already had to retire. He said it on the podcast. He had to retire from coaching his kids because over the next 8 weeks, he's going to be analyzing a basketball game every weekend. So he was like, I can't.
And I'll just say, like, in consuming his work as a podcaster and as a media personality, like, I don't know if there's anyone smarter covering the game than him. And maybe, like, that's not the best barometer in terms of comparing, like, him to other media members or other former athletes talking about the game. But I think when you hear him talk, like, he sounds like a coach. He clearly has that level of intellect. And just because some of these guys we're talking about didn't play in the league and they've been working through the film room or assistant coaching ranks or whatever, but like he has 15 years of experience as a player, as a very high level role player, and again has the relationship with LeBron. So I guess this is a roundabout way of saying, like, I've started to talk myself into JJ being maybe the most logical candidate. I know a lot of Laker fans are skittish with it, but I think he checks a lot of the boxes of, like, young guy you could grow with, where even post LeBron, you were talking about building around AD. Like, I could see him being the long-term answer as a coach, where a guy like Budenholzer or Kenny Atkinson, a Terry Stotts, like, we've kind of already seen their body of work.
That's why that one, I don't see that happening.
Yeah.
Because I'm with you. You've seen the body of work. You've seen.
With which one?
Like Terry Stotts.
Oh, yeah.
Kenny Atkinson. And I think those guys, Kenny should get a job, right? But I just don't think I don't know if it would be here.
Who's to say that too, if JJ Redick is your head coach, that building a staff.
That's the other thing. You got to build the right
staff.
staff.
Terry Stotts comes in and I don't know who. When I think of JJ, just to piggyback what Jovan was saying, I look at Steve Kerr. He was a very successful first-time head coach. Obviously, that team was prime and ready, and he took it and molded it in the way he wanted to, and then they had additions. And he worked, obviously, so close with Bob. But when you look at his road, played for Lute Olson. Played all those years in college for Lute Olson. Played for Phil Jackson. Played for Pop. Media. broadcaster like JJ. The only thing JJ hasn't done, he did the GM job. That while all that was going on, Steve was planning on becoming a head coach. He was doing all those things and learning in every single position so that when he got the right job, he was ready. Now it was supposed to be with Phil, and it was almost a done deal. And trust me, every time he got on the plane that year at Golden State, he was very excited he was not in New York because they were terrible. And he took that meeting with Lakeup, and Phil allowed him to do that, and he took that job. But Steve was ready. I look at JJ and I go, he played for Coach K. He's played with superstars. He played in this league for a long time. Phenomenal on TV. Podcast with LeBron. Like when you look at all those things, he's kind of in that mold. He's been around amazing people. He's been around amazing mentors. So he's cut his teeth that way. So obviously you'd have to be patient and you'd have to have a good team for him. But, bringing in smart people around him and experienced staff, I could see it being something that the Lakers are taking a hard look at.
He's also very much shown, obviously, with this latest podcast drop of his X's and O's, the IQ and the passion and the love.
Why do you think he took that podcast job? He already has a podcast.
Overall, or this podcast with
Podcast with LeBron. I'm just saying.
Stop making sense.
I will say,
I'm
if
just saying.
LeBron asks you to do a podcast,
Okay.
I mean,
Everyone
I'll
hears
do it
him
tomorrow,
on.
right?
You hear him on First Take when he crushes Stephen A. Smith. It goes viral. Okay, he's great in those settings. He's great along RJ or whomever he calls games with. He has a quick wit. He knows the game. Podcast, he's awesome. Great interviewer. But the one with LeBron, it's basketball related. They're drawing plays. They're talking about schemes. That side of him, you get to see now because maybe he wants to be a coach. If he wants to be a coach, that's the way for everyone to see it and go, this guy's a genius.
It's literally his psychosis.
Yeah, so he literally has an in. He has street cred before he's ever done it.
Yeah.
And I will throw in, too, that for what it's worth, he was a finalist for the Charlotte Hornets job. He was the second place guy behind Charles Lee. And he's already had some interest with the Boston Celtics and the Toronto Raptors in terms of an assistant coaching position. So there's been smart organization. Hornets, I might not go that far, but like Boston and Toronto, smart organizations with interest in JJ. And then now he just recently was interviewing and was the runner-up. But you don't know, was that JJ pulling out potentially because now there's this Lakers position?
I have a question. Is Pop going to continue to coach? Could you see the Spurs swooping in?
I could.
And seeing Pop going, you know what, JJ? I got a team for you. I got a guy named Wemby. You'd be perfect in the Spurs organization as I walk away. Could you see that? He used to
live in Austin, Texas. He used to live in Austin.
Could you see that?
He might still have a home there, but
like how long has Pop
in the
been
off
coach?
seasons he was there. Pop's, yeah.
Like who's Pop's successor? I've always thought it might be Bones, Brent Barry. I still do.
Yeah, it's a good question.
Not that I have inside information, but that's my bet. But I'm just saying, JJ's going to get swooped up by someone.
He's going to go, whether it's the Lakers or somewhere else.
Yeah.
He's going to
next year.
Going to be a coach within the next couple.
I mean,
of
we've
years.
seen it.
Next couple
Nash,
of years. I got you.
Yeah.
Fish.
I thought the Kerr comparison is one I've been
Kid.
making. I see a lot of like even just their temperament.
That makes me feel good because you're a really smart guy.
I appreciate it. But like their temperament, but then they also like Kerr will have like the tantrums where he gets thrown out and like, and I could see JJ kind of being like the chill coach.
Yeah.
But
He's
like,
been ejected from his child's game. His patience level is at a 7.
Steve is one of the, but by the way, Kerr is one of the gnarliest competitive guys of all time.
Yeah.
He doesn't always come off like
But when he gets there, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, Jovan, can we just clip this and use it as the A block for the show tonight?
That'd be so awesome.
How do you feel about that? All right, so going from the coaching search to award season, it is heavily upon us. So we're going to change directions for a second because Nikola Jokic won his 3rd MVP. We'll talk about that on the show tonight. Rudy Gobert, Defensive Player of the Year. 4th time Defensive Player of the Year for Rudy
crazy,
Gobert. Yeah. Speaking of 4, Anthony Davis finished 4th in voting. Your thoughts on him not being a finalist? Because we've talked about it a lot over the last several weeks. You probably have been on the show and discussed it as well.
It's not surprising. Like it's surprising in terms of like what the results should be. It's not surprising in terms of like what I thought the results would be. Just like he was not really in the discourse all season. I think outside of like Lakers Nation and Laker fans talking about it. But I think the problem is like defensive rating comes into this a lot in terms of like your team defense, and the Lakers outside of the first couple months of the season were never really a good defense this year. If anything, they probably underachieved, I think, relative to the team's talent or just, they weren't a good defense. And now that I don't think that's on AD, but I think that was something. Where were the Spurs? Spurs were down there too, but then Wemby's averaging almost 4 blocks a game, and like he's putting up these crazy stock numbers where it's like, I think like with AD, I think there was a little bit of slippage in the second half of the season, but still, if you're comparing him to a guy like Rudy, I just think that he's scheme proof. Where there's really, we saw it last year in the conference finals, or through the conference finals run of like, he basically by the end of the Memphis and Golden State series, those teams, perimeter players did not want to drive in the paint. It was actively like, how can we get AD out of the paint? And if he's in there, we're not going to attack him. And I just think seeing a guy like Rudy get played off the floor at various points, but even just kind of have his role reduced a little bit at various points of his career in the playoffs. Bam, I think, is an elite defender. I just think AD's bigger and is a better rim protector. Wemby is going to be a special, like, he's probably going to win multiple of these awards. So, but he's also a rookie, and the Spurs weren't a good defense either. Although they had a really good defensive rating with him on the. So like, I'm getting a little bit into the numbers. Like, I'm not. It's not surprising, but I think people sometimes focus. It's almost like you have to be a top 10 defense to even be in consideration, and unfortunately, the Lakers weren't.
Yeah, unfortunately, narratives are a big part of everything, right? And when the Lakers are struggling or the defense is down at the bottom, that takes AD immediately out. If you watch him every night like we do, you know how good he is defensively. I'm so glad you brought up the Memphis and Golden State series. I mean, Robert Horry, who's been around a long time and played with Hakeem and won 7 championships, thought literally that was one of the best stints of defense he had ever seen played. He literally compared it to Hakeem Olajuwon. So when you see that, you go, this guy's the best defensive player. But when your team is down at the bottom, I think that is a big part of it. He's also asked to do so much offensively, and he has that narrative around him. If he doesn't have a good offensive game, people forget that he's having a great defensive game. No other defender really in the league has that. Maybe Wemby will now, but it's interesting. Gobert doesn't have to score a point.
That's where I needed to
JJ McDaniels the perimeter defense of the Wolves, as we've seen in the playoffs.
3 guys before they even get to Rudy Gobert.
He's got all these guys. I mean, honestly, it's like he gets played out of games, as he said. No defensive player of the year should ever get played out of games. I think AD should have won it with Frank here. When the Lakers were the best defense and they were the best team, and AD was the best defensive player, I think Giannis got it that year. He got MVP, and that was the year for AD to win. And if he had won that year, now he has that reputation, and he's always in the mix. Gobert's just in the mix with the casuals because he wins all the time. And other casuals are like, AD's hurt. Isn't he hurt all the time? Like, they don't know, really. That's why Trudell was always banging that drum on the broadcast. Like, no, look at the numbers. Look at the advanced stats. Look at what AD does on this end of the floor. If he would have won it, unfortunately, he didn't. He should have won it the year of 2020.
Yeah, 2020. But again, I think to the point of not even being a finalist, I think that was really hard.
I also think like AD gets a lot of slander, a lot of unfair slander.
Why? Why do you think that is?
I mean, I think it's largely been the injury stuff, where the different nicknames or critiques, but like AD is really the only guy who has a bad half, and that will like lead a sports talk show of like what's wrong with AD, what's wrong, this and that.
Bad fourth quarter, was it, in that first game of the year against Denver? Was it where he scored? Was it bad second half?
Yeah.
That was the lead story for days.
Yeah.
It's pretty unreal.
Yeah. Like, and so I think that's an element too of just like he's kind of become underrated, I think.
Does it matter that the Minnesota Timberwolves crushed the Denver Nuggets in Game 2 without Rudy? I know it's a regular season award, but my point is defensively. They held them to like their lowest
actually better defensively.
It
looked like that night than That's a great point.
I mean,
like Rudy's a really good defender. I don't want to.
You don't become a 4-time defensive player of the year without having something. Correct.
Yeah, I think it's.
I think too, you're the number 1 defense. You're the number 2 team in the West.
I mean, to be honest, he might not even be the best defender on his team. I think JJ McDaniels,
who the Lakers drafted, by the way.
Who they did draft.
2020.
He might be the best defender in basketball right now.
Frank Vogel?
Yeah. I mean,
Congrats.
before we take a break.
I'm happy for Frank.
Yeah,
because I
Frank
love
Vogel.
Frank. I think he's a great guy. I think he can
That
come back
news.
here to Manhattan Beach now. I'd love to see him on his walks
See him
with
at
his wife.
Shellback.
Yeah, he's a great guy. I'd love to have a drink with him, and he's getting paid for 4 more years, and he's out of that franchise that has zero clue what they're doing.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
they don't. They went to the finals. They have Monty, a great team. They just traded everyone to get KD. Now Monty's gone. Now Frank's gone. They're a mess.
Yeah.
Absolute mess.
As we're recording this, that has happened, obviously. And then Woj reporting that Mike Budenholzer is a front runner and has already started to assemble a staff. I wonder if any of those guys that you had on your list for head coaches are on that.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
good for them.
man.
Like, hopefully, Buds.
Frank, we'll see you at Shellback.
They got to fix some other things.
Geet and I will cover your tab.
They need to fix
The
the
Suns?
roster.
The Suns?
Yes, if they want to win basketball games when it counts late in the year. Okay? It's enough.
Some teams just aren't built for the playoffs. They're just not.
And you know who told us? Our director. And we didn't listen to him.
We didn't.
He told us all
Sorry,
year.
I was wrong. I was a Suns
Brian Bergen told us all year
stockholder.
this was going to happen because
You
he watched
thought
every game.
too?
I never
Yeah,
believed him.
got.
I never believed him. And I want to apologize, Bergen. I think he's here today. I saw him earlier today.
He's in our ear.
Bergen's here. There he is. I'll apologize to you.
I'm sorry
You
for
were right.
believing in the Suns.
I believed in your team, and I was absolutely wrong.
I didn't necessarily believe in them,
I
but
had no idea they sucked
I didn't.
like that.
All right.
Although-
He
He
told me.
Minnesota's on a special run where, like,
because
it
I believed in
kinda-
them. I
If
believed in them.
Minnesota sweeps Denver, it kind of
Maybe the
makes
Suns
the
aren't that
Suns look
bad.
better.
And makes,
Frank's like, see,
and isn't it funny how the conversation was, were the Lakers really that bad with the way that Minnesota is handling Denver? Have you seen that? That's part of the question. Yo,
those people are
Are you-
stupid. Yeah, I'm like, who watch
like,
the
zone out?
games? Like those guys, they played so well, and come on. I
think
two
one-
buzzer beaters.
One thing for the Lakers to take away from this is like size and athleticism
Yeah.
still
Matters.
matters.
Yes.
And as
Dwight tells us every day. Dwight Howard tells us every day.
By the way, he
so I
does.
don't know if Dwight is the answer because he's been out of the league
Fans
for
still
a
think
couple
it's
of years.
2020. They're like, we gotta have Dwight.
I keep
Yeah.
getting like the Dwight and
Yeah.
Boogie
but
in my mention. I'm like, they haven't played NBA basketball in 2
Yeah.
years. So
and Allie, I was dialed in. I was just like, I needed a moment to be.
Yeah, I was
those
like, what
people, no,
is
those people
happening?
are just.
Chris, what
Those
is
are the same
happening?
people that jump, go talk, try to talk to his fiance. Like they don't matter.
They don't.
They don't.
I agree. Lakeshow fans, you matter.
Like they
So
live
remember-
in their basement still with their moms. They don't matter to me.
Type it on their keyboard. You can be a part of the show. What are they? They're Barneys.
Complete Barneys.
You can be a part of this show each week. Feel free to send us your questions.
A lot of
and
Barneys out there,
comments.
Brett.
We'd love to hear from you. We're going to take a quick break. When we
Right.
return, it's a round of Pocket or Break. Welcome back to Lakeshow Podcast presented by Jack in the Box. If you're enjoying the show, you can check out more original podcasts from our Spectrum News journalists on the Spectrum News app. Just head to the podcast section to listen to the latest episodes. You can download the Spectrum News app on the App Store or Google Play. Time for a round of Bucket or Brick presented by Jack in the Box. It was reported this week that Christian Wood would be exercising his player option. Bucket or Brick, you are surprised that Christian Wood is exercising his player option.
To be a Laker again?
Yes.
Am I surprised?
Yeah. Are you confused?
No, I just get buckets, but that's a brick. Of course he did. Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
injuries played a big part. I think he's happy here.
Yeah. Are you surprised?
No. I expected that. I don't know if that's a good thing for the Lakers, to be honest. I think he had a pretty underwhelming season, even taking out the injuries. Shot like he was brought in to be sort of this guy that if AD misses time, you could go to Christian
that
Wood, who's
void.
been a 20 and 10 guy. And he really never, he might have had a couple of games where he flashed that. And maybe part of that is on the coaching staff in terms of putting him in certain positions to feature him more offensively. But he averaged 7 and 5. He shot 31% on threes. Like, he did not have a good season. And really, like, some of the memorable moments were in the beginning of the season, where I think the Phoenix game, right?
Maybe a
where
Clippers game.
He
I remember
defended
he had-
KD and the Clippers game early on. And, like, but that we're talking about games in November. And, the season went till
At that point, I remember being
late April.
Yeah,
So
it seemed like he was such a great pickup, and then, like you said, it kind of fizzled out.
out. And then Jackson Hayes was the one who stepped up. So I think if the Lakers had their druthers, it would be Jackson Hayes staying and not.
What's
Christian
Jackson's
Wood.
deal?
he's got a player option as well. So Jackson, Cam Reddish, and Christian Wood all have player options.
Got it. LeBron James and JJ Redick on the Mind the Game pod talked about end-of-game scenarios. Did you guys hear this?
I did.
I did not hear
Went
this
up
one.
3 with less than 30 in the game. Both said that they would foul every time. Bucket or brick?
Under 30 seconds or under 3 seconds?
Under 30 seconds. Up 3. They would foul every time. Bucket or brick fouling quickly at the end of the game, up 3 every time.
I got to be. I don't remember LeBron ever doing that in his Laker tenure.
It was more so like as the clock's like low, winding down. They were talking about how good free throw shooters are, the scenario, the situations.
I think they had mentioned 6 to 8 seconds also as like a reference. Like I'm on board with the 6 to 8 seconds. If you're, like basically a one possession final, I'll go bucket.
Under 30, I'm not sure. I'm with you a little less.
Yeah, I don't know why that. Why is that the context? Is that just in general?
I think so.
Under 30?
I think that but to me that's a little bit too much. Like if
last possession, I think is what. More what that means.
I think I would say under 10 seconds, I would foul. Yes.
Yeah, it was that Tyrese Maxey situation.
Yeah.
And
like LeBron made a really good point. You got to foul as they're dribbling.
Yeah, I mean Maxey just hoisted from 35. I mean, couldn't stop him.
So
yeah, it's an interesting one. Again,
I'm on board.
The psychosis of what they get into on that podcast, and that
they're in agreement.
They're talking about it because
did JJ just give us his answer?
He's going to coach
for every opponent. Bucket or brick? The T-Wolves have cracked the Nuggets code. Shoot, they cracked it, or have they beat it to a pulp and buried it? I mean, in all fairness, okay.
The reason why I say they crack it, and I'm not saying they win the series, but I remember watching them play in the regular season down the stretch. The Nuggets won a really close game, and I thought that was going to be for the 1 seed because we were kind of looking where the Lakers were going to be, and I thought that was what's going to separate them and OKC. They were all in that little 3-way tie, final week of the season. But during that game, I said to myself, man, Minnesota can play with Denver because of the size, because of the wing defenders, Ant, the way they can attack offensively. And I was the first time I watched Denver in that game going, man, all of a sudden they're not getting everything so easy. Jamal Murray's just not as free. Porter Jr. is just not as I don't know. He doesn't have that same moxie. So not that they can't beat Minnesota, but they've cracked it in terms of they have a formula. Now, execution is a different thing. But yes, they have the formula.
I agree. I've been pretty surprised, mainly because Minnesota's offense was so bad during the regular season that I thought even if they could slow down and bother Denver a little bit, it would just be like Denver's defense could hold Minnesota's offense better than vice versa. But to Geeter's point, it's been, I mean, you need the size and length against them. And honestly, off the top of my head, Minnesota might be the only team that is bigger than Denver. Like Denver is one of the big, they make the Lakers look small. Yeah. And the Lakers make most other teams look small. And like Denver and Minnesota might be the only two teams off the top of my head bigger than the Lakers.
That's right.
So like Minnesota's kind of the exception there with just all these wing defenders, all this length, the way that they're trapping and rotating, it's incredible. And then offensively, in Ant, like he's taken a jump to another level, but also specifically, like he kind of reminds me a little bit of LeBron in terms of his downhill ability. And we saw LeBron was able to get downhill at will against the Nuggets.
Good point.
Really live at the rim and score efficiently. That's what Ant has been doing as well. His jumper's also been there, so it's been like another development. But I think in terms of you need athletic guys who can attack Denver's defense. They have a really good team defense. But they don't necessarily have that one-on-one athleticism. He's too big for KCP, too quick for Aaron Gordon. So I think Ant is a problem for Denver's defense. And then on the other end, you got 2 7-footers in that starting lineup. Jaden McDaniels, again, I think looks like the best defender in the league right now. And you just got all these other guards and wings that are swarming. So I think that is the formula to slowing down Denver.
Jovan, when a team's cooking too, guys are hitting threes from everywhere and everyone's on fire.
Confidence.
Who is this guy?
The momentum, all that.
I read this quote after the Suns series where it was Alexander Walker, Jaden McDaniels, and Ant. And Jaden McDaniels said, we just look at each other going out to play the Phoenix Suns with their scoring capabilities, right? We just look at each other and we're like, who you got? Who you want? Because they have that much confidence in their defense that they don't care who's in front of them.
And Alexander Walker, I think, deserves a lot of praise off the bench.
To have that freaking mindset and mentality. Bucket or brick, the Ant Edwards MJ comparisons are too much.
They are too much for now, right? Like if they win the championship, then I think you can start making that. Even then, we're talking about arguably the greatest player, or at worst, the second best player of all time. So I think it's like a little premature. This is his first time getting out of the first round. They were the 3 seed. It wasn't like they had some 65 win season where they were the 1 seed and like dominant throughout the regular season. Like they had a good year.
Yeah.
They were right there in the mix for the 1 seed. But it's a little like, to be clear, I see the similarities in terms of the athleticism, in terms of the mindset, in terms of even people have kind of put them side to side in terms of like how they look, how they talk. Like there are some similarities, to be clear, but I think it's kind of like anything. Like when a guy's 22, any type of comparison to like a top 5, top 10 guys is just too premature, in my opinion.
He's right. Slow down, but I'll bucket it just to go the opposite because of what
You have to brick it.
No, I'm gonna.
I said too much. He bucketed.
Oh, sorry. Then I'll brick it just for fun because I feel like I think what the comparisons are about. It does remind me a little bit of when Jordan was super young, and I'll never forget watching those games and what he was doing to Boston, because I hated Boston, and he was dropping 63 and going between his legs like 5 times on Larry Bird and like talking all kinds of like I loved that, and I feel like Ant, what he was doing to KD and the way he was acting, and then the way he dunks, kind of looking like MJ. I can see why there are some comparisons, because this man's confidence is at that level, like you saw with Kobe and you saw with MJ. So I'll brick it just to kind of have some fun with it. But yeah, let's
I like that.
let's slow down a little bit.
I have a thought. When this is over, I'll tell you. Bucket or brick, Lakers will retain their first-round pick for 2024 NBA draft. Pelicans can take it this year or next.
Is there no clue?
They'll retain it. Yeah, I think they'll retain it.
I'm going to go with Jovan.
No, I think they're going to try and trade it.
Love that.
I think they'll try.
That's going to be me on the show tonight. Ditto.
Yeah.
They're going to try and trade it, though.
Because the
They're
Pels
gonna
can
trade
swap this year,
Yeah.
next year, right?
I think they're going to try and make a move on draft night.
Got it.
What's the pick?
17.
And what's the Pels pick?
They're in the 20s.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean they're basically making a bet that the Lakers will
Are going to have
worse
a
next year.
Worse next year.
Yeah.
And it's not a great draft this year, but
No, that's the other thing.
according to the experts. Okay.
Bucket or brick, we could see some heavy recruiting between players this summer at the Olympics.
Always. Bucket.
So I'm out of buckets, but I will bucket this brick.
Bucket.
I mean, yeah, like we now have a track record of since 2008. There has been team ups with some of these guys, and this is a insane roster.
Doesn't stuff have to be done by then?
Well, like for future, I think future, like
Yeah, it
down
won't
the
be
road.
like
If
for
not-
this
it
year.
won't be this season.
No, but it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
hey, I'm up in a year or two.
So
Let's get
boring.
this thing going.
But I mean, it is interesting because like there are some older guys where I don't think Steph, KD, LeBron, Kawhi are going to be teaming up.
Yeah.
But you have, I mean, I think it's an interesting opportunity for the Lakers where they're just going to
Float it out there, Jovan.
theorize here,
Yeah.
right? So you have LeBron and AD on the team.
I'm listening.
When is this
and
for?
For the Olympic
Talking about this
team.
year in Olympics.
Yes, okay, yes.
You have Jason Tatum.
Yep.
You have Devin Booker. You have Anthony Edwards.
I'm listening.
You have Tyrese Halliburton,
Yes.
although his stocks declined a little bit. But like, you have some interesting young players who are going to be stars for the next 5 to 10 years.
Who wants to come play with Anthony in 2 years?
Who wants to come play with Anthony in 2 years? Who wants to be the next? And frankly, probably who wants to be the next face of the Lakers?
Next face of the Lakers.
Of like, you get Anthony Edwards, Devin Booker, Jason Tatum. That guy is the next face. And as AD is going into like his mid 30s,
And LeBron's going to say, here's what it takes to be the next face. Can you deal with it?
That's the kind of the recruiting time. So that's just some like, I think this is planting some seeds for 3 to 5 years from now when some of these guys are going to be free agents or demanding out from their teams potentially.
Wow.
Just keep an eye on
I got you.
who's on this roster and if any of them end up being Lakers.
Jovan planting seeds over here.
See you in an hour for the show.
See you an hour for the show. Thanks to you for listening to the Lake Show podcast, presented by Jack in the Box. If you like what you hear, leave us a rating and review on your favorite podcast app. We want to hear from you. Send us your questions. Hit us up on X at Real A Clifton. Geeter 3. What's yours?
At Jovan Buha.
At Jovan Buha.
Why'd you do it after
Bye.
you made the first one?
Do what?
Do it again.
He threw me a ball.
Oh.